Education has become, it's really interesting because when we think of education in the school systems, a lot of Canadians think about the residential school and that ugly time in Canada's history. But what was a tool of oppression, what was a tool of cultural genocide and colonialization, has now become a tool of regeneration. And that is through the work done in the 1970s by a lot of Aboriginal leaders with papers from the National Indian Brotherhood on Indian control of education. You know, fast forward, 30, 40 years later, there are some remarkable things happening in terms of education, how our kids, how our people relate to the world as a whole, how we contribute to the economy, the education system, and so forth is really remarkably improving. But more important to a lot of us is the idea that it is really helping us to be ourselves again, helping us to take back our culture, to take back our language. If I could backstep, as many of you remember on our first day of classes, there were at least 3 of us who were Aboriginal that we identified as in the class. And each of us 3 are in various stages of reclaiming who we are. Even in our day and our age, the process of colonization has its impacts on the loss of culture, on the loss of language, and a whole undiscovered, unspoken history that we have been denied by society to explore about ourselves. But education and our strategies in education have been remarkable in, like I said, revitalizing that. Central, I'm interested in Indigenous philosophy, and central to the idea of talking about Indigenous thought is looking at the language. And I'm not sure if I mean in a linguistic way, but I'm just saying, what do we mean by this word, that word, or this sentence? When do we use this phrase or that phrase? Because that allows us to learn a little bit about ourselves, you know. My age group, and I'm 60 now, is kind of caught in between 2 generations. One before us, which would be my mother's age, and my Aunt Rose's age, who would be in their 80s and 90s right now. Really were the last generation who could speak full Algonquin. Then from those of us who grew up in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, we're kind of that lost generation in terms of our own language. We don't speak it. I know how to count to 10, I know how to say a few animals, and I know how to say a few weather conditions, and that's about it. And of course, living in British Columbia, where my people are in Quebec, is very difficult in terms of learning a language. The generation below us in 1980s, 90s, and now speak more Algonquin than we do because they've been learning in the school system. I think that's one of the most wonderful testaments to Native control of Native education. So the video following is a bit of a promotional video. It's put on by the Kitigan ZB School, and it really says a lot about how education is central to reclaiming who we are as Algonquin people and our particular history in Kitigan ZB. So that's the next video.